Hello everyone, my name is Harjeet Kaur and I am making this presentation. I'm explaining this presentation for my Psychology 100 course. Today I will be presenting a comparison of experimental and non-experimental research method in psychology. My presentation focuses on the topic of stereotyping and decision making, a key areas within social psychology. Social psychology examines how people's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by the presence of others. One important area of research is stereotyping, which involves generalized beliefs about groups of people. These stereotypes can significantly impact decision making and behavior, both consciously or unconsciously. For example, implicit biases may influence hiring decisions or academic performances, as we will see in the studies I will discuss further. So, in the overview of research method content, psychological research uses both experimental and non experimental methods. Experimental methods involve manipulating one or more variables to observe their effects on outcomes, helping us establishing cause and effect relationships. For instance, we can test how exposure to stereotypes affect decision making. Non-experimental methods, on the other hand, involve observing of measuring variables without manipulation. These include correlational studies, case studies, and naturalistic observations. They are useful for exploring relationships between variables in real world settings, such as how implicit biases correlate with job preferences. Firstly, I will discuss about my experimental study, which I chose to explain here. So, this study was taken by Spencer Still and Quinn, published in 1999 in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, a peer-reviewed journal. The authors are experts in the field with doctoral degrees and affiliations at leading universities, making them highly qualified to conduct research. This study examined how stereotype threat impacts performances. Stereotype threat refers to the anxiety individuals feel when they risk confirming negative stereotype about their group. The researchers manipulate stereotype related cues and measured performances on decision making tasks. And the results showed that participants under stereotype threat perform significantly worse compared to those who doesn't expose to such cues, with a mean score of 62% versus 85%, demonstrating the casual impact of stereotype threat on performance. And the another study I will discuss is non-experimental by Greenwald and Banaji, published in 1995 in Psychological Review, another well-regarded peer-reviewed journal. Both authors are pioneers in studying implicit social cognition. This study explored the relationship between implicit bias and hiring preferences. using a correlational design. The researchers used implicit association tests to measure bias among 120 hiring managers and examine how these biases correlated with hiring decisions. They found a strong positive correlation between implicit bias scores and preferences for certain candidates, suggesting that unconscious biases influence hiring decisions even when people think they are being objective. In the next slide, we have here comparative remarks about our both studies. Let's compare the two studies. The experimental study by Spencer et al. Is strong in establishing causality because it manipulates variables in a controlled environment. However, it may lack real-world applicability as the tasks were artificial. On the other hand, the non-experimental study by Greenwald and Banerjee has high ecological validity because it studied real-world hiring scenarios. However, correlational studies like this cannot prove causation. We only know there is a relationship between implicit bias and hiring preferences. Note that bias directly causes hiring decisions. And if we move forward in the next slide, we have the uses. Experimental methods are ideal for testing hypotheses about specific mechanisms such as whether stereotype threat directly impacts performance. These methods help us understand cause and effect relationships. Non-experimental methods are better suited for studying complex real-world issues like implicit biases in hiring. These studies provide valuable insights into patterns and relationships that can inspire further experimental research. And in the next slide, we have conclusion here. To conclude, experimental and non-experimental methods each have unique strengths and limitations. They both are different. Together they complement on another Together they complement one another and provide a more complete understanding of psychological phenomena. And these studies really help people to understand the topic. If we read full articles, then we can completely understand what's going on in their experimental studies and non-experimental studies. Because these studies are taken by those people who are well qualified, well educated from higher universities, and also they have a lot of experience in psychological fields. They observe the world in that way, which we can't. In the case of stereotyping and decision making, combining these methods help us uncover both the underlying mechanisms and the broader implications in real-world contents. And next, now we will discuss about references that from where I took the articles and all those material for making my presentation slides. Here are the references for the studies and materials I have discussed. I totally used APA format to cite the experimental study by Spencer et al., which was study which was taken in 1999, and the non-experimental studies by Greenwald and Banerjee 1995. If you are interested, then you can see my full text articles which I have shared an assignment. And last, thank you for listening.